10.
It's a different kind of talk show with a different kind of talk.
The Big Idea with Donnie Deutsch. It all starts Monday at 8 Eastern on CNBC. Be there for you. Squawk Rocks Monday, 7 Eastern. CNBC on the money.
If you love cars, you know the name Lotus. Lotus race cars first hit the U.S. back in the 1960s in a big way at the Indy 500, and since then, Lotus has had an ongoing relationship with America's sports car enthusiasts, and interest in Lotus got a shot in the arm with the introduction of the car known as the Elise back a year or so ago, 2004. Russel Datz is spokesman for Lotus Cars USA, kind enough to bring a few out for us today, and we're going to have a look at those, including the Elise. Russel, welcome. Good to have you here.
Tyler.
Good to have you here. How many Lodi do you sell in the U.S. every year?
The Elise actually has made a big splash. It's the most cars we've sold in a year ever, actually. About 2,400 last year. People were waiting about 3 years for that car to come.
So it's a limited run. You only make a certain number of them. You've got to get your order in ahead of time.
Yes.
Are you sold out?
We went beyond, about 20% beyond expectations last year, which was great for us. This year, demand has come off a little bit. You know, there was the pent-up excitement for it, and now we're running full steam still, though.
The Lotus name just sort of makes the heart beat a little faster in anybody who's a sports car enthusiast, because there's such a lore and a history with some of the cars, including this one, which was really a marvel back in its time, 1971.
Yeah, this is the Europa. It's actually built on a backbone chassis, which for its time was revolutionary, and everything is kind of hung off of that. The body is also a very light glass fiber material, and for its time, actually the car was introduced in the late 60s. It was revolutionary, and there's nothing like it. It's a very small engine, but because the car is so light, only about 1,400 pounds, it's quite fast.
Let's move on to this one, which kind of has a history, because as you were telling me, this body style was one that inspired a famous car in one of the Bond movies.
Yeah, actually it was The Spy Who Loved Me in 1977. This is the Esprit, and the story goes that Colin Chapman, the founder of the company, really wanted to get a boost in America and the world for his cars, and pulled up to a Hollywood lot and said, this is the car that James Bond needs to be driving, and they said yes.
And James Bond, Roger Moore in that case. Let's look at this sweet little red convertible here. What year does it come from,
This was
Russel?
introduced in 1991. This is the Elan, and this was introduced at the time that General Motors owned Lotus. And it's a front-wheel drive, front engine, which is kind of contrary to what all other Lotuses are, and that's rear drive with a mid-engine, which is the engine behind the rear seats but in front of the rear wheel, so very good handling. This sold for about a year. It sold for about $40,000. Unfortunately, it wasn't that popular except for the really Lotufisti, as you might call it.
The Lotufisti. Let's move on here to this lovely yellow one before we get to the new one, the Elise. Tell me about this one.
This is the last version of the four-cylinder Esprits. It's the S4S. And it sold in 1995 for about $80,000. It was very, very fast. It's turbocharged, four-cylinder, still the same body style as the Bond cars, you might say. And then it went to a V8, a twin-turbo V8.
This is a beautiful sports car.
Yeah, that's a really timeless design.
And this is the new one, the Elise. How many of these have you sold in the country so far?
Well, just to give you an idea, the Elise represents a 2,500% increase in sales for Lotus cars. The Esprit ran from 1977 to 2004, a 30-year run. And then the Elise came out to rave reviews in the media. The media love it. It's the purest sports car you can probably buy. There's no frills whatsoever. And it went from 100 sales a year of the Esprit to about 2,500 of the Elise. Very popular.
Now this Elise, one of the things that is very nice, you see the city mileage there, 23, highway 27, but on the sticker, it's an amazingly well-priced car, $47,000.
It's probably
for
the best buy for the money in terms of performance and exclusivity. You know, you're looking at only about $2,400 a year. It's got the same power to weight as a Corvette, so you're looking at 0 to 60 in about 4.5 seconds, a top speed of 150 miles an hour. And it's just really tuned for, as you see inside, there's nothing in there. And it's just pure racer.
These are really racing seats.
Oh, yeah.
If you look at them, they're very lightweight and so forth. A wonderful car for someone to own, to drive up to the club or to take out on, a highway on a beautiful day like this.
You will definitely be the only guy in the neighborhood with one. And then coming this year is the Exige, which is a hardtop version of this car, a coupe, which if you think this is pure and extreme, the Exige is even more so.
Tell me about the history of Lotus. I always think of it as a great European mark, race car from Monza, Le Mans, and so forth. Was it a British
Always
company?
British, yeah. Colin Chapman is the founder of the company. He was a racer. He wanted to build race cars, and almost like Enzo Ferrari, he sold street cars to finance the race efforts. And in doing so, he was very successful. Many Formula One championships, a laundry list of top F1 drivers. So there's a lot of history there. Also,
So Chapman was the founder, then bought by General Motors, and now it's owned by?
It's owned by Proton, which is a Malaysian car company. They are. The issue with small volume car manufacturers is it's always a struggle for money. You're not dealing in volume, you know, so you're not making huge profits. You're building the car for passion. So a lot of the bigger companies actually look for these small companies like Lotus, like Lamborghini is owned by Audi, and because it brings a certain level of cachet and technology to the
Where
table.
is this one made?
England.
England.
Yeah.
Still the factory is in
Ethel,
England.
Yeah. It's actually on an old U.S. Air Force base. They use their old runways for test tracks.
Dealers all across the country or in
About
major metro markets?
50 some odd dealers across the country, coast to coast, anywhere you want to go. We actually have 3 in Canada as well.
All right, Russell, thanks so much for bringing these wonderful Loti
You're
here
welcome.
for us to see. I'm going to drive this one off a little bit later. Russell, thanks
Have
so
fun.
much. Appreciate it. Good
You
to
got
see
it.
you. All righty, Lotus, of course, not the only race-proven name on American streets. Our Mike Hegedus takes a look at another longtime winner.